Hello friends, good morning. Welcome to my channel. Okay. In this video, I'll be talking about the importance of pentose phosphate pathway. Okay. So this pentose phosphate pathway, it is also called as hexose monophosphate shunt pathway. Hexose monophosphate shunt pathway. Okay. And this pathway, it is an alternative pathway to glycolysis. It is an alternative pathway to glycolysis. Okay, and this hexose monophosphate shunt pathway, it consists of the oxidative phase and the non-oxidative phase. So in both of these phases of pentose phosphate pathway, there are the multiple enzymes that take part in the reactions. Okay, and one more thing that is important to know about this pathway is that in this pathway there is no ATP production. There is no net ATP production in the hexose monophosphate shunt pathway. So despite of not being a source of ATP, then why this pathway it is utmost importance. So that is our area of learning today. Okay, it is because the pentose phosphate pathway, in the pentose phosphate pathway, there is a production of or the formation of a molecule called as NADPH, the nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate. Okay, next it is also a precursor for the formation of something called as ribose sugar. Okay, and this ribose sugar is pentose sugar. Okay, and this ribose sugar is utilized for the de novo synthesis of the purines. It is utilized for the de novo synthesis of the purines. Okay, and there is also many more importance of this NADPH, which we will be learning very shortly. Okay, so despite of not being a source of ATP, this pathway has utmost importance because it provides NADPH and the ribose sugar. So this NADPH, first we'll be learning why this NADPH is so important for our body. The NADPH. So this NADPH is formed in the oxidative phase of pentose phosphate pathway. The reaction catalyzed, the reaction that is during this molecule is formed is the glucose 6 phosphate dehydrogenase. Glucose 6 phosphate dehydrogenase. Okay. So this dehydrogenase enzyme, during the reaction catalyzed by this enzyme, the NADPH, it is formed. Okay, and this NADPH is a part of antioxidant. It is a part of antioxidant defense system. Antioxidant defense system. And next, the NADPH is also a molecule that is involved in the respiratory burst. The respiratory burst. Okay, the respiratory burst. Now we'll be defining one by one both of these. How the NADPH is involved in antioxidant defense system, and what is respiratory burst and what does it do? What happens during this respiratory burst? Okay. So basically the antioxidant defense system in our body, they comprises of the enzymatic antioxidant and the non-enzymatic antioxidants. Okay, and one of such enzymes involved in the enzymatic antioxidant defense system is the glutathione peroxidase enzyme. This glutathione peroxidase enzyme is a part of enzymatic antioxidant, and it utilizes the reduced glutathione as a coenzyme. It utilizes the reduced glutathione as a coenzyme. Okay. Now during the process of neutralizing the free radicals, this glutathione peroxidase utilizes reduced glutathione as a coenzyme. Now during the process, the reduced glutathione becomes oxidized. It gets oxidized into oxidized form of the glutathione. Okay. Now for the regeneration of this reduced glutathione, we require an enzyme called as glutathione reductase. Okay. And because this oxidized form of glutathione, they are not important in our body. They are biologically inactive. Okay. So the glutathione must be converted into oxidized glutathione must be converted into reduced glutathione. Okay. And the conversion of reduced glutathione to oxidized glutathione happens during the reaction catalyzed by the glutathione peroxidase during neutralization of the free radicals. Okay. Now for the regeneration of this reduced glutathione from the oxidized glutathione, this reaction is catalyzed by the enzyme glutathione reductase. Okay. And this glutathione reductase utilizes NADPH as a coenzyme during the conversion of oxidized glutathione into reduced glutathione. So during this process, the NADPH donate its electrons to the oxidized glutathione and convert it into a reduced glutathione. That's why this NADPH is very much important for the regeneration of this oxidized glutathione, for the regeneration of the reduced glutathione from the oxidized glutathione. If this process is hampered, the person may suffer from hemolytic anemia. Okay, and this happens during the deficiency of the enzyme G6PD, glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase, because in the absence of G6PD, there is no production of this NADPH, and if there is no production of NADPH, the RBC membrane becomes vulnerable to attack by the free radicals, and these free radicals can damage the membrane of the RBC, leading to a reduction in the number of RBC, and that leads to a hemolysis or hemolytic anemia. Okay, next function of this NADPH is the respiratory burst. The respiratory burst. Okay, the respiratory burst. Respiratory burst. So this is the phenomena that is activated in our innate immune cells. Like for example, neutrophils during the infection or invasion by the foreign organisms. Okay. So during the process of this respiratory burst, there is a production of a hypochlorite ion, which is a free radicals that is involved in damaging the cell membrane of the bacteria. So this process called as respiratory burst is a phenomena that is activated in the neutrophils or the innate immune cells during the invasion by the foreign organisms, and this process, it requires, during the process of respiratory burst, there is an enzyme called as NADPH oxidase, and this NADPH oxidase require NADPH as a coenzyme. So it is involved in respiratory burst, and the major function of this respiratory burst is to get rid of the bacteria that is invaded in our body. In this way, the NADPH that is produced during the pentose phosphate pathway is involved in the antioxidant defense system and also in the respiratory burst. Thank you.